how do you truly define family in today's world? I mean, is it just about blood ties or marriage?
Or is it something more fluid now, maybe more personal?
It's a great question. We often have this traditional picture in our heads, don't we?
Mm,
But the reality, certainly here in the UK, since, say, the mid-20th century, it's been completely transformed, a real whirlwind of change.
absolutely.
So today, we're doing a deep dive into exactly that, these really dramatic shifts in family and household structures.
Yeah, trying to get under the skin of it.
Our mission really is to unpack the fascinating reasons behind these changes, look at the incredible diversity of family types that have popped up.
And explore how sociologists are making sense of it all.
Exactly. And we're drawing heavily on this fantastic source, Shifting Families,
Yeah.
UK Patterns and Diversity, which is just packed with insights.
And our aim is pretty straightforward, to give you a clear, concise, but also thorough grasp of these quite complex societal shifts without getting lost in academic speak.
Right. We want to find those aha moments for you.
Yeah, those surprising facts that maybe make you rethink what you thought you knew about families.
So by the end of this, you should have a much more sort of nuanced view on what family actually means today.
Definitely moving beyond those easy assumptions.
Okay, let's get into it. Where better to start than the foundation itself? Marriage.
Mm-hmm. The traditional starting point.
For decades now, we've seen this pretty steady decline in marriage rates in the UK, especially first marriages.
Yeah, that's a really consistent trend.
And it's striking, too, people are waiting much longer, aren't they, to actually tie the knot.
Oh, significantly longer, often, focusing on careers, maybe living together first.
Right. And then, even for those who do get married, remarriage is so common. Now we talk about serial monogamy.
That's the term, yeah. Basically, a pattern of one monogamous relationship after another over a lifetime.
So it really begs the question, what on earth is driving this huge shift away from that traditional path?
Well, it's not just one thing, is it? It's several powerful forces kind of working together. Think about secularization, first off. For many people, marriage just doesn't have the same religious weight, that sort of sacred duty it once did.
Less of a must-do.
Exactly. And society's attitudes, they've changed massively. There's far less pressure to get married and much more acceptance of alternatives, like living together.
Okay, that makes sense.
But maybe the most crucial factor is the changing position of women.
How so?
Well, with greater economic independence, women simply aren't as reliant on marriage for financial security. It's no longer a necessity in the same way.
Ah, so it gives them more choice.
Huge amounts of choice. That old economic bargain of marriage, it's weakened considerably, or even disappeared for many.
Interesting.
And yet, you can't ignore the cost of weddings either. It's a smaller factor maybe, but getting married is expensive, and that certainly doesn't help.
No, definitely not. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a really clear picture of the pressures on marriage. So if marriage is declining, what's stepping into that space? Is cohabitation, living together without being married, is it just a temporary thing?
Or is it something more fundamental?
Yeah, is it changing how we even think about commitment? Because the rise in cohabitation is sharp, really sharp.
It's been dramatic, especially among younger people.
And it's often seen as, a trial marriage.
It definitely can be. For lots of couples, it's a way to test compatibility before making that bigger commitment, if they choose to make it.
But it's more than just a trial run, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. A huge part of it is the reduced social stigma. Think back a few decades, living together unmarried was really frowned upon.
Yeah, living in sin and all that.
Exactly. Now, it's often the norm. Plus, let's be practical, it's generally cheaper than getting married.
True. No big wedding costs.
Right. And that affordability is a big pull, especially for younger couples maybe facing precarious work or high housing costs.
And attitudes to sex outside marriage have changed too, presumably.
Massively. That's part of the reduced stigma. And again, women's independence comes back into play. They're not necessarily waiting for marriage for financial security or to start a family.
So cohabitation isn't just one thing then?
Not at all. For many, yes, it is a phase before marriage. But for a growing number, it's a genuine long-term alternative. It suits their lifestyle, their values. It is the relationship, not just a step towards something else.
Okay, fascinating. Now, talking about relationships changing shape,
Mm-hmm.
let's move on to divorce, the unraveling knot.
Mm-hmm. Another area of huge change.
We saw divorce rates in the UK really shoot up after the 1969 Divorce Reform Act. That was the one that made irretrievable breakdown the only grounds.
That's the one. It made divorce legally simpler.
And rates peaked, what, early 90s?
Around then, yes, they've sort of leveled off or even dipped slightly since, but partly that's because, well, fewer people are getting married to begin with.
Right, fewer potential divorces. But what really fueled that big initial increase? Was it just the law changing?
The law was a catalyst, definitely, making it easier and cheaper matters, but it was tapping into deeper shifts already happening.
Like what?
Well, first, as you said, the legal changes themselves. Not just 69, but also the 1984 Matrimonial and Family Proceedings Act helped. Second, and this is huge, the reduction in stigma. Divorce just isn't seen as the personal failure or the moral catastrophe it once was. It's far more socially acceptable now.
Less shame attached.
Much less. Third, back to the changing role of women. Increased financial independence means women are more empowered to leave marriages that aren't working. They're less trapped economically.
That seems to be a recurring theme.
It's fundamental. Fourth, people's expectations of marriage have skyrocketed. We don't just expect stability. We expect emotional fulfillment, equality, personal growth.
A soulmate, basically.
Kinda, yeah. And if the reality falls short, people are less willing to just put up with it. Feminist perspectives really highlight this. Women especially are less prepared to tolerate unequal, patriarchal relationships.
Higher standard.
Definitely. Fifth, secularization again. Less religious objection means fewer moral hurdles to divorce for many people.
Okay.
And finally, there's this broader idea linked to modernity and individualization. Sociologists like Zygmunt Bauman talk about liquid modernity.
Liquid modernity.
Yeah, the idea that society is less fixed, more fluid, like liquid. Our lives, our identities, our relationships, they're less stable, more changeable. We prioritize individual happiness and self-fulfillment.
So institutions like marriage become less binding.
Potentially, yes. If a relationship isn't meeting those personal needs in this liquid world, we might be quicker to move on, seeking fulfillment elsewhere. Commitment becomes more conditional.
Wow, that's a powerful combination of factors.
Yeah,
And it's clear how divorce then reshapes families.
absolutely. It directly creates more lone parent families, overwhelmingly headed by mothers initially.
And also reconstituted families or step families
Yeah.
as people repartner.
Exactly, leading to more complex family networks.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly and look at childbearing patterns. We've seen birth rates falling in the UK for quite some time now.
Yes, leading to smaller family sizes overall. It's a major demographic trend.
What's behind that? Why fewer children?
Again, it's a mix of things. The sheer cost of raising children is a huge factor now. Childcare, housing, education. It's a massive financial undertaking.
More so than in the past.
Arguably, yes. The perceived costs and necessary investments are higher. Then there's women's changing roles, again, prioritizing education, careers, which often means delaying childbirth.
Right. Starting families later.
Exactly. And the widespread availability and acceptance of contraception gives couples much more effective control over if and when they have children.
So more planning involved.
Much more. And linked to that later marriage trend we discussed, later marriage often means later children and potentially fewer overall.
And alongside fewer children overall, we're seeing many more children born outside marriage, aren't we?
A very significant increase, yes. It directly mirrors the rise in cohabitation and also single parenthood by choice or circumstance.
And that brings us to lone parent families. They're a really visible part of family diversity now, mostly headed by mothers, as you said.
Overwhelmingly, though, lone father families exist too.
But they often face real difficulties, don't they? Things like poverty.
Yes, that's a major concern, often linked to the lack of a second adult income, the high cost of childcare, which can be a barrier to work, and sometimes welfare benefits not quite bridging the gap.
It really raises questions about how society supports these diverse family structures.
It certainly does. And something else that's growing is the number of couples actively choosing not to have children at all.
Childlessness by choice.
Exactly. Not due to infertility, but a conscious decision. That adds another layer to family diversity.
And what about the extended family? Grandparents, aunts, uncles? Has that changed too?
Definitely. The classic image might be the dominant nuclear family of the industrial era, maybe living close to relatives, but that's evolved.
Ow.
Well, we now talk about dispersed extended families. Relatives might live far apart, different cities, even countries.
But they stay connected.
Very much so. Thanks to phones, internet, easier travel, they still provide significant emotional and practical support, just not necessarily face-to-face every day.
Okay, so geography isn't the barrier it once was.
Not in the same way. And then there's the idea of the beanpole family.
The what now? Beanpole.
Beanpole family. Think of a family tree. It used to be quite wide, lots of siblings, cousins in each generation. Now, because people are living longer but having fewer children.
Ah, so it gets taller and thinner?
Precisely, like a beanpole. You might have multiple living generations, great-grandparents down to great-grandchildren, but fewer people in each generation.
That must change family dynamics quite a bit. Fewer aunts, uncles, cousins.
It does. It impacts things like care for the elderly, inheritance patterns, the sheer number of relatives you have for support.
That's a really vivid way to picture it. So tying this all together, sociology talks about the life course, doesn't it?
Yes, it's a really useful concept. It moves away from that old idea of fixed, predictable life stages everyone followed.
School, job, marriage, kids, retirement, that kind of thing.
Exactly. The life course perspective recognizes there's much more fluidity now, much more individual choice in how relationships and family life unfold over time.
It's less of a single-track railway line?
And more like a network of paths you can choose from. People cohabit, marry, divorce, repartner, have children inside or outside marriage, stay single. The sequences are incredibly varied.
Right, it's the sort of choose-your-own-adventure for family life.
In many ways, yes.
Which brings us smack bang into the big debate, maybe the core question of this deep dive. Just how diverse are families and households in the UK today?
Is diversity the new norm, or is the traditional model still lurking beneath the surface?
There seem to be two main camps arguing this out.
Broadly speaking, yes. On one side, you have perspectives that still see the nuclear family as the ideal, or at least the dominant form.
Like the functionalists, Parsons and all that.
Exactly. Functionalists like Talcott Parsons argued the nuclear family was perfectly adapted to modern industrial society, performing essential functions like socializing children and stabilizing adult personalities. They saw it as, well, functional and universal.
Okay, and the New Norm, right? They seem quite keen on the traditional family, too.
Very much so. The New Right strongly advocates for the conventional nuclear family, usually married couple, dependent children, male breadwinner, ideally. They often view other family types, especially lone parent families, as less desirable, perhaps even dysfunctional.
And they sometimes link it to social problems.
Yes. They often express concern about things like welfare dependency, crime rates, educational underachievement, and link these issues back to a perceived decline of the traditional family, sometimes blaming overly generous welfare policies for creating perverse incentives that might undermine marriage.
So a very strong defense of the nuclear ideal there. What about the other side, the argument for increasing diversity?
Well, there's a lot of evidence marshaled here. A really influential starting point was the work of Robert and Rona Rappaport back in 1982.
The Rappaports, right. What did they find?
They argued that diversity was central to understanding contemporary families in Britain. They identified 5 distinct types of diversity. It wasn't just random variation. It had
Types. Okay, what were they?
First, organizational diversity. This refers to differences in how families organize themselves, things like who does the housework, whether both partners work, the structure of roles. Think dual-earner families versus a single breadwinner model.
Okay, internal organization.
Second, cultural diversity. Differences between families from various ethnic, religious, or cultural backgrounds. For example, they noted the higher prevalence of extended family networks in some South Asian communities, or the tendency towards matrifocal or mother-centered lone parent families in some African Caribbean communities.
So cultural norms shaping family structure. Got it.
Third, class diversity. How family structures and practices differ across social classes. Things like child-rearing approaches, attitudes towards marriage and divorce, the resources families have, they often vary by class.
Makes sense. Fourth.
Life course diversity. This captures the fact that family structures change as individuals move through life. You might be in a nuclear family as a child, cohabit as a young adult, get married, maybe divorce and become a lone parent, then repartner into a step-family. Your family experience isn't static.
Ah, the choose-your-own-adventure idea again.
Exactly. And fifth, generational diversity. Differences in attitudes and experiences between generations. Older generations might have very different views on divorce or cohabitation compared to younger ones based on the social norms they grew up with.
So the Rappaports really mapped out the complexity.
They really did. They argued diversity wasn't just happening, it was the new reality, replacing the old dominance of the nuclear family.
But not everyone completely agreed the nuclear family was dead and buried.
No. Stanley Chester, writing a few years after the Rappaports in 1985, put forward a slightly different view. He acknowledged diversity, but argued we'd move towards what he called the neo-conventional family.
Neo-conventional. What's that?
Basically, a modified version of the nuclear family. It's still nuclear in structure, parents and children, but it's typically dual earner with both partners working, rather than the old single male breadwinner model.
Oh, okay. So still nuclear-ish, just updated.
That was Chester's argument. He suggested that while people experience various family types throughout their lives, like lone parenthood after divorce, most people still aspired to the neo-conventional family, and many would spend a significant part of their lives in one. So for him, diversity existed, but this modified nuclear family remained the main type people aimed for.
Interesting nuance. What about more radical views? Postmodernism.
Postmodernism takes it much further. Postmodernists see contemporary society as fragmented, rapidly changing, and characterized by choice and diversity in all areas of life, including families.
So no single pattern holds.
Exactly. From this perspective, there's no longer one dominant, stable family structure. Instead, individuals have much greater freedom to choose their lifestyles and construct their family and personal relationships in ways that suit them.
Leading to lots of different forms.
An absolute profusion of forms. Family becomes whatever individuals choose it to be. Relationships are more flexible, perhaps more unstable, shaped by personal needs rather than external rules or traditions.
And some sociologists link this choice directly to women's actions.
Yes. Judith Stacy, for example, argued quite strongly in 1998 that women have been the main drivers of family change. She suggested women have actively forged new types of families, often after divorce, to better meet their needs.
Like the divorce extended family.
That was her term, yes.
Right.
Where former spouses, their new partners, maybe even former in-laws maintain connections and support networks, particularly for the sake of the children. It shows how family ties can be creatively redefined beyond marriage.
And Anthony Giddens. He had ideas about love itself changing, didn't he?
He did. In 1992, Giddens talked about the rise of confluent love and the pure relationship in what he called late modernity.
Confluent love.
Yeah.
Pure relationship. Sounds intense.
Well, the idea is that relationships, especially intimate ones, are no longer primarily about tradition, duty, or economic necessity. Instead, they are entered into for their own sake, for the personal fulfillment and emotional connection they offer. Confluent love is active and conditional. It depends on mutual satisfaction and emotional intimacy. The pure relationship exists solely because both partners choose it and feel it meets their needs.
So if it stops meeting those needs,
Then the relationship is likely to end. It makes relationships potentially more fulfilling while they last, but also inherently more fragile and less permanent than relationships based on duty or tradition.
that really ties into the individualization theme.
Absolutely. It's about relationships serving the self.
So bringing all these threads together, there's another perspective, the sociology of personal life. How does that fit in?
It's a really interesting and relatively recent approach. It critiques some of the earlier perspectives for focusing too much on broad structures like the nuclear family or the lone parent family.
What does it focus on instead?
It focuses on the meanings that individuals themselves give to their relationships and define as family. It argues we need to look beyond just blood ties or marriage certificates.
So who counts as family is more subjective?
Exactly. It includes relationships that might not fit traditional definitions, but are deeply significant to people. Think about close friends who are like family, or relationships with pets, even connections people maintain with deceased relatives.
Wow, okay, so family is about connection, shared history, maybe.
Yes, shared history, emotional significance, mutual support. It's about who you consider your family, based on your personal experiences and connections, not just imposed categories. It broadens the definition considerably.
It feels like that captures the fluidity we've been talking about.
I think it does. It acknowledges that lived reality is often much messier and more varied than neat sociological boxes sometimes suggest.
This whole deep dive really highlights how dynamic family life is. It's this constant dance between big social forces, economic changes, legal shifts, cultural attitudes.
And individual choices and experiences.
And together, they've totally reshaped what families and households look like in the UK today. We've moved so far beyond just one single rigid ideal.
It's a much richer, more complex picture now.
So wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway for you? This deep dive has definitely shown this profound, ongoing shift in UK families, from that old singular ideal to, well, this rich tapestry of different forms.
It really has. And I suppose the provocative thought to leave people with is this. Given everything we've discussed, the decline of traditional marriage, the rise of cohabitation, divorce, diverse family forms, this focus on individual meaning, what does it mean for the definition of family going forward?
Does the word itself need to change?
Or at least does our understanding of it need to stretch even further, beyond blood, beyond marriage, to really embrace those personal connections, those chosen families, those shared histories that people value so deeply?
Yeah.
What does this constant evolution tell us about our society's priorities? Are we heading towards greater individual freedom and happiness, or is there a risk of losing something important about social bonds?
Lots to think about there. We
Yeah.
really encourage you listening to reflect on this.
Mhm.
What parts of these shifts resonate most with your experience or your observations?
Yeah, what stands out to you as the most surprising or the most significant change in how we live and relate to each other today?